All right, so today what I'd like to talk about is an experience that I had this weekend with a potential new client, and I thought this, as with most things, I try to take the things that happen in my life, and I try to take the things that happen in my business and try to relate them to a greater overall concept. And this is one that I learned when I was about 17, 18 years old. So what happened is that somebody showed up for one of my tutoring sessions. And they went to, pay online. They went to add themselves as a client or whatever, and then they had called and said, "Okay, I need you to add me for this day." And I very politely and kindly said, "I can't do that, but once you go through the online scheduler, you'll be able to add yourself." And as you can see, if you check my website right now, you'll see that it's one of the very obvious, basic, bare-bones rules that I have. And I try to make it sound pretty, like it's an important part of the process, that you need to sign up and use my scheduler. It's that simple. It's just a very, very basic thing. It makes my life easy. It then syncs the scheduler to the phone. I can see that somebody booked. I can see, I can see the dates. I don't have to worry about adding things and typing your phone number and name and all that crap in manually. It's just a very basic little system. And my idea is very, it's very simple here. It's that if you're coming to learn how, the difference between VCCIO and vCore, why PP3V42 has to be present before PP-G3 is present, if you're coming to learn all that stuff, you'd better know how to use an online scheduler. Whether it's a lack of knowledge or a lack of willpower to use the online scheduler, I don't care. If you can't learn how to use that because you don't feel like it or whatever, then how are you going to feel like learning how to solder a QFN on properly? How are you going to feel like, troubleshooting with the board not plugged in when you're doing resistance and diode mode measurements? Oh, it's kind of hard for me to adjust I'm 99% certain I tore my quad over the past 6 months, and I've just kind of been making it worse and worse with all this running I've been doing. But anyway, if you can't do that, then how are you going to get the rest right? And a lot of people think that this is a petty concept that I'm on. They think it's petty. They think it's immature. They think I'm being mean. They think that, oh, this person's paying a lot of money. So since they're paying a lot of money, you should do this, that, and the other. And the gentleman showed up after I told him specifically that you need to book this online because I want to start. And it's like, A, there's been no notice here. B, you didn't use the fucking scheduler. And he showed up on Sunday with a check in hand for $2,395, a certified check. Not one of those bullshit checks like I talk about in the other video. Not one of those things where you fucking write your name on it and you're saying, "I have money, trust me. Call these guys and they'll tell you." Not that bullshit, but the type that's actually good. Like certified check from Chase Bank. I know what they look like. I've had them written up before. And I told him to leave. Very, very simply. I said, leave. He's like, "Oh, but no, I want to," you know. We had a phone conversation about this. I have instructions on the website. It says very clearly on the website to sign up through the scheduler. I told you over the phone as politely as I could and kindly that I need you to sign up via the scheduler. You decided to ignore all of that shit and bum rush my business and wanted me to literally start right there. It doesn't matter that there's nobody else in the store. It doesn't matter that I have other things that I'm working on. It doesn't matter that I plan on going home in half an hour. And he's like, "Oh, what about tomorrow?" And it's like, no, I have things I plan on doing tomorrow. Use the scheduler. One of the things I like about the scheduler is it doesn't let you book without advanced notice. You need to give a few days of notice before. And it also shows you what days are available and not available. I don't want to deal with double booking. I don't want to deal with crap, which is why I love having a scheduler. And again, the thing that I'm stressing to people, a lot of it has to do with the respect portion of it, right? If you don't respect my rules, how can I expect that you're going to respect the boards that I give you to work on, often that belong to my customers, that you're going to respect my equipment, which costs thousands of dollars? That's a secondary concern. My primary concern, again, is if you don't feel like using a scheduler, that is the easiest part of this process. The online scheduler is the part of this process that requires no brain power, nothing, no effort. It's all you have to do is spend 30 seconds reading it, clicking, and it just becomes obvious how this thing works. If somebody's not willing to do that, How can I trust that you're willing to put 96 of the balls back on and make sure that they're all an even size on an SMC? How can I trust that you're going to want to actually measure every single one of the pins of a 28-pin IC, that you're going to measure every single one of their diode mode measurements to ground and compare it to a proper one, and not just give up by pin 25 because, quote, most of them were good? It's one of those things where it's like how you do one thing is really kind of showing me how you're going to do the rest. So, one of the things that I've also tried to avoid here is taking someone's money when I truly, genuinely believe that they will not be able to learn. So I tell people to, again, check out my basic electronics playlist before you come here. Check out all of this stuff. I talk with people before they sign up for this. If they have zero experience, like zero experience doing any of this stuff, I legitimately just tell them don't sign up. Because I want people to come here that have a genuine chance of learning. And if somebody does anything before the fact to show me that they're probably not going to have a chance of learning, I would like to save myself the hassle and save them the money and just have them not show up. I gave that guy back his $2,395 check for a 5-day session. And again, this is something that a lot of people say is petty, is unprofessional, because I am, because you should just deal with those things. And it's one of those things that I learned when I started working at this recording studio, the smaller one. And people were saying, oh well, they're not obeying our rules here, or they're doing this and they shouldn't be, but they're paying us a lot of money, so And I remember there was one drummer, he was such a person to look up to, such a person to learn from. He was such a great influence in my own life. His name was Michael Carvin. And I remember him just looking at me one time, and the thing about Michael Carvin is he had a very stern and strict demeanor, and he had a very, very strong set of ethics and beliefs by which he lived his life. But he never talked down to me. He would talk down to a concept. He would talk down to a stupid or silly way of doing something. But he always talked to me as if I was an equal. Even though I was 17, had no experience, was some snot-nosed teenager, and he was a greatly experienced, greatly accomplished adult. And one of the things I remember him telling me while I had this session that showed up late, it was a session that showed up late and they were kind of fucking around with the equipment. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, but they're paying, so I'm being nice to them because they're paying me hourly, at least they're paying, right? And he looks at me and he's like laughing, and he's like, and I didn't understand why he was laughing. And I'm paraphrasing because it's been 10 years, literally 10 years since we had this conversation. But I remember him saying something along the lines of, all right, so you can't trust them to show up on time. I'm like, yep. He's like, you can't trust them to respect your equipment. I'm like, yep. How can you trust that they're going to pay you at the end of your session? And I'm like, well, because they haven't shown me any reason that they're not going to. They didn't say they weren't going to. They look like they're going to. It's like, do they respect your rules? Do they respect your time? Do they respect your equipment? How can you expect that somebody who does not respect you in one way will then magically respect you in another way? How can you expect somebody who does not respect your time, that does not respect your equipment, that does not respect your instruments, to then respect your requirement that they pay their bill at the end? You set the tone for the relationship. See, he told me if this client does not pay you at the end of the session, it has nothing to do with them. It's not their fault, because I set the stage for how I was willing to be treated from the beginning of the transaction. And since I set the stage to be treated like a piece of crap from the beginning of the transaction, that's how they were going to treat me. It's these things that just like that other people don't think about. They think we have to be nice because they're paying a lot of money. We have to act professional, which is just shut up and take it and nod and say yes, sir, I'm sorry, sir, I'll do that, sir, don't worry about it, sir, rather than say the things that need to be said. Like, this session was supposed to start at 12. It's 12:45. What the fuck? Or, hey, you don't know how to play that instrument. Can you please not play that instrument? That was another thing that used to get Michael Carvin. I remember him saying that there was this one guy in the group that did not know how to play drums. Michael Carvin is an amazing drummer. He's not just a drummer that just goes ba ba ba. He's you know those drummers that kind of say like, oh, I play the drums because I can hit the bass drum and the snare drum with like and stay on tempo, on point. That's not playing the drums. He saw playing the drums as a legitimate art form, as a way of self-expression, as a way. It was just so much more than just what you hear in a lot of cookie cutter stuff. And This guy just goes in the drums. He has no idea what he's doing. Absolutely no clue. He's just hitting stuff. He's hitting stuff. And he's like, man, this is one of those things that gets to me. Do you see people go up to a viola and just start going blah, 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 when they don't know how to play it? Do you see people go up to a flute and just blowing it when they don't know how to play it like it's a whistle? No. But you got all these people that walk up to the drums and start beating them like there's no respect for the craft. Like there's no like you can just do that without having any clue how to play it. You don't do that with every other instrument, so why do you do it with this one? He was a person who had an amazing level of respect for his craft, and he expected that level of respect from other people. He had this system, again, and there were about, I still remember, Michael Carvin had his school of drumming, and then you had about 10 or 11 other rooms in that same hallway, in that same suite, in the Film Center building, that also had schools of drumming. And his was set up like a machine, he had a session at 12 o'clock. They show up at 11:50. They knock on his door. He acknowledges them. He sit back down. At 12 o'clock, he opens the door. They come in, and they have their session, and then they leave. It wasn't any of this bullshit that you saw with a lot of the other people where their students were showing up late or their students were showing up unprepared and he had none of that bullshit. He had none of that, oh, I'm sorry, my last session ran over, but don't worry, I'll give you more time. You never heard those words out of Michael Carvin's mouth. It was a well-oiled machine. And I remember him telling me this story, and now I'm really deeply paraphrasing because this is literally like a 10-year-old story. This one guy showed up late, and he offered Michael more money in order to accept the session. And he pretty much does something like, money? And he just takes his cigar or something and puts it through the money. He's like, I don't give a fuck about your money. And he throws it away. But it really does set the stage for how people treat you. Had he simply allowed this person to give him an extra 20 bucks because they were late, he's setting the stage to, my rules matter, but they don't matter as much as your extra $20. What type of message are you sending about your business? What type of message are you sending about your service when somebody can disrespect you completely, not follow the rules that you expect everybody else to follow, but then make up for it by giving you an extra 20 bucks? It's one of these things. And the other things I remember taking away from Michael Carvin were the teaching mentalities. I remember him saying, everybody else in that suite, and this is one of those things you really got to think about to wrap your head around. Everybody else, okay, to do this with the drums, and then you'll learn. They have the student, dun, 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 dun. And then he would then, I'm losing my mind, I'm tired. What did I was just talking about all the other students would listen to the teacher. The teacher was like, this is how you play drums. The teacher would play the drums, and then they would have the student play the drums. And that was what it was like in every room. And one of the things I noticed really early on about his school was that Michael Carvin would not have you play the drums, but he would be teaching you how to play the drums. I remember he would have these sessions, and the person would enter the room for 45 minutes to an hour, and I would not hear drums being played. But the people coming out were better at playing the drums after taking his class. Like, try to wrap your head around that shit. I'm going to teach you how to become a better drummer, a better artist, without you playing drums. And it's not bullshit. Like, the people coming out of his class were better at their craft as a result of it. And I took that to heart. I took that to heart and tried to apply it to the stuff that I'm trying to teach you here. You see, you got all these channels where they're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to replace this chip. And then they have the techno music in the background, and they have it at 5x and all that bullshit. And they think that you're going to learn. By watching them do something at 5x speed, you're going to learn. That's not how it works. You have to teach a mindset. You have to get them into the mindset that is proper for them to be able to actually do what it is you want them to do. It's all about the mindset. And that was just one of those things that I could not wrap my head around for years. But it's something that I try to do with this YouTube channel when I'm going over electronics. I don't want you to just sit there and just stumble around and go, okay, put a wire here. Okay, now run the wire to there. Okay, great. So now you fix this. Wait, what did I do? That's the way a lot of people teach. I don't want to teach that way. I want to teach you a mindset. That's why a lot of the people who show up for the tutoring, I go, okay, what would you do here? I'm like, what? And I go, what would you do here? I'm like, how am I supposed to know? And I go, well, somebody had to figure this out in the beginning. So that means that you can figure it out now. So I want you to be in this mindset. I want you to think about this. What do you think, what would you check first if a light bulb was not working? Would you check would you just change the light? Or would you check to see that there's actual power going to the light? And almost every single person goes, oh, I would replace the light bulb. And then I say, okay, what if the light bulb had 96.25 millimeter balls attaching it? Would you then replace the light bulb in a 40-minute process, or would you see if 120 volts was getting to the light bulb before you did it? And they go, man, yeah, in that case, I'd probably want to check if there's 120 volts going to the light bulb. And that's probably not the best example, just because I'm tired and not remembering everything properly. But I try to get people into a mindset, and I want them to take that mindset and apply it to everything they're doing, so that rather than have to follow what I said, I want them to follow the mindset that I taught them, so that they're constantly following themselves. So that people don't have to ask me, Louis, I'm in this situation and what do I do? I talk about this guy very often, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but like, pizza store dude, that guy posting on Advanced Reworks that was the assistant manager at the pizza store or whatever, man, that dude's not asking me questions. He's not asking me about all these other things after he took the course. You know why? Because he learned a mindset, and he's using that mindset to do things for himself. He's using that mindset to solve his own problems, so that he doesn't have to come back to me every single time he has one. That's the thing. That's what I am trying to teach with these videos. I want to teach people a way of thinking, so that when they have a problem, they don't have to come back to me, but they can simply ask their way of thinking that's been instilled in them, and then they can then get the answer to their own problem. And that's something that I learned from Michael Carvin. It wasn't just business that I learned from him. It wasn't just respect for myself that I learned from him. It was just this entire mindset. And I'm really glad I learned it at a young age, because you have these times where people don't respect you or your rules. And you have to realize that every part of the business relationship is going to be a clusterfuck. Like, I may wind up doing a video on this eventually. I'm not sure, because I don't know. I just haven't been really up on making videos as much lately as I used to be. My head hasn't been in. But there's this one person, we said, listen, don't check the ticket for status. So there's this thing in Repair Shop at the POS system we use where it's like diagnosed, invoiced, completed, approved, all that shit. We don't use it. We get approval from the customer. We type it in the notes. We tell them you're welcome to call at any time. However, if we have not called you, it's not done. And this person kept saying, listen, I keep trying to check the ticket and it doesn't say status. Why doesn't the ticket say a status update? Why doesn't the ticket tell me where you are at the board? And the thing is, the way that we work, I don't put in it, like, I don't have a live system that shows, you know, oh, well, D6990 was blown and we replaced it, but there's still a short to ground. Oh, now we found the short to ground, but now we don't know why it's not turning on. Okay, now we figured out how to make it turn on, but now the USB port's, like, we don't have a status system like that because A, it would completely demolish my ability to work efficiently, and B, it doesn't really fucking matter. Like, does it matter to the end customer if I found one short but it still doesn't work? To them, the only thing that matters is, does it work? That's all that matters. And if it works, the second it fucking works, you bet your ass I'm calling them and emailing them to tell them that it's done. It's not like I want them to have to check status to see that it's done. I don't want people to check status to see if it's done. Like, the second it's done, I should have been calling them. I should have emailed them. I should have reached out to them so they'll know. And this person, again, we said we were welcome to call, and he just keeps emailing. He's like, hey, man, the status system isn't working. Hey, man, the status system isn't working. And we kept him as a customer because he was paying money, right? And just this morning, I get this whole thing on like how, oh, you're a Trump type, and you guys have no passion, and you don't like us, and you don't know what you're doing, blah blah. Just all this bullshit, because I didn't respect myself. I wasn't listening to my own advice. I have a very basic set of rules. You will hear from us 2 to 5 days after you send a board in for repair if you're another service center, and the status update that you receive will be when we call you to tell you it's done. If you'd like to call at any given time, you're welcome to, but this online ticket system does not have status for board repairs. It's not the way we work. Do you accept these terms and rules? And if they say yes, we have a good relationship. If they say yes, but then show me that they're ignoring that, it doesn't work. The business cannot work if people show you up front that they don't have respect for your rules or the way you do business. And that's totally okay. You're welcome to take your cigar and put it through their money and give it back to them. I didn't take my cigar, and I don't smoke cigars, and put it through the guy's certified check, but I did give it back to him, and I was as polite as could be in explaining to him why I cannot work with him. So it's important to have respect for your rules. It's important to have to make sure that others have respect for your rules. And it's just a way of looking at things. Like Michael Carvin was explaining, like all these people are out, you know, they just think that if they do these things and that the easy money is going to be out there for them. But when you have that mindset, of just not of letting others trample over your rules, then you're not building a business with dignity. You're not building something that's going to last. And he was a multi-millionaire from his early 20s. So, I mean, yeah, I'd rather take his advice than the advice of everybody else that's like, yeah, to be a professional, you need to do this, that, and the other, when they haven't accomplished jack shit. I'd rather take the advice from the very intelligent person who is very accomplished, who actually earned respect by respecting himself and making sure others respected the rules that he had. It's something that can be applied to so many different items in business. And the whole thing with teaching, again, that just blew my mind, like about teaching a mindset. Like just realizing that students were paying him to learn how to play drums by walking into his room with a drum kit, and you didn't hear drums being played. I heard drums being played in his room like 3 times in 2 fucking years. Seriously. It was just, it's one of those things that, like, when I finally managed to wrap my head around it, it just helped me so much in my ability to actually teach others. And, you know, my business the way it is right now, the YouTube channel the way it is right now, if I hadn't met him, it would not be here. So one of the things I'd really like to do going into the future is I'd actually like to be able to interview these people that have helped me in my life, the people that kind of helped shape my business, shape my life, and just help me build the things that I've built. I'd like to actually go back and interview these people in person and ask them a lot of the questions that the people on the channel have. It's something that I may wind up coming up with in a future video, but if anybody here has questions, if they'd like to ask this gentleman questions, it's something that I really think I'm going to reach out to him about. Please do ask them in the comments below or just message them to me. Because again, I don't want you to just see my viewpoint. I want you to see the viewpoints of other people who are far more successful and far more accomplished than I am on this channel. Because what I'm doing is I'm not really necessarily relaying just my thoughts. When I talk to you and I'm explaining concepts and the core philosophies and rants in the business talk videos, I'm trying to relay to you the things that I learned from people who are far smarter than me. The Roy Hendricksons, the Ricky Begans, and the Michael Carvins. It's not all stuff that came from me. It's what came from people who are much smarter and much more accomplished than me. I may be explaining it through my own filter because I'm explaining it through the, I guess, the bias of how I've lived my own life and how I have applied their advice, but it is their advice, it is their mindset. And I don't know, I think it would be useful to a lot of the people who are starting their own businesses or going off into their own things in life to hear what these people have to say. So yeah, you know what? I'm going to contact him when I'm done with this video, and I'm going to ask him if he'd like to do an interview, because I really think that he would have a lot to teach everybody who watches this channel. But